Man, I am not gonna lie. Kyle Busch just shocked everyone after finally exposing what is really going wrong. And the secret here is not some hidden scandal. It is Busch himself saying out loud that the car, the team, and even some of his own decisions have all played a part in why this thing has gone sideways. Because this story is bigger than one bad finish or one angry radio message. Kyle Busch is sitting 22nd in the 2026 Cup standings with 90 points through 5 races, and despite winning the Daytona 500 pole to open the year with a burst of optimism, he still has no top 10 finish yet. That is not where people expect a 2-time Cup champion to be, and honestly, it is not where Kyle Busch expects Kyle Busch to be either. So today, we are going to break this down in the exact order that matters. First, what Kyle Busch said about the next-gen car and why he believes one flaw is causing some of his most dangerous moments. Then we will get into the part that really raised eyebrows, Busch openly admitting that he and Richard Childress do not fully see the problem the same way. After that, we will talk about Mark Martin's comments, Busch's own admission that he made mistakes, and then we will finish with Darlington, because the way Busch described that track tells you exactly what kind of weekend he thinks is coming. And before we even get to the quotes, here is why this story has real weight. Busch has been winless since June 2023, which means the drought is no longer a quirky stat or a temporary slump. And even at home, that reality is showing up in his own family life, with Brexton asking why other kids are celebrating more often in Victory Lane. That is the kind of thing that turns frustration into urgency, and that is why this week hit different. Busch did not give one of those polished, vague driver answers where you say the team is working hard, everybody is learning, and you just need to keep grinding. He got way more specific than that. He basically peeled back the hood and showed people the real issue. This current car does not let him drive the way that made him Kyle Busch in the first place. On Kevin Harvick's show, Busch explained that the phrase appearing again and again in his notes has been more right rear stick. That is the feel he says he has been chasing for the last 2 seasons. And that one detail tells you a lot, because Busch has always been a driver who wants to attack corner entry, control the center, and then trust the rear of the car enough to launch off the corner with confidence. Busch compared it to the old car and said it used to be much simpler to find what he wanted. In his telling, you could make a classic adjustment, get the rear grip you needed, and go race. But with the current generation car, he says that trust is gone. And this is the line that really matters. Busch said when he tries to drive it the way he naturally likes to, he ends up spun around backwards because he overtrusts the right rear and it simply isn't there. That's a huge admission, because it reframes a lot of what fans see. What looks on TV like a driver overdriving the corner or making an unforced error may not feel that simple from inside the cockpit. From Busch's perspective, the car is betraying the exact instinct that built his entire style. He's not saying he forgot how to race. He's saying the platform changed in a way that punishes one of the core strengths of his driving style. And for a veteran this deep into his career, that is brutal. You could actually hear some of that frustration bleeding out at Las Vegas too. Over the radio, Busch complained that the front right height felt wrong, the rear felt too high, the front felt down, and the car was spinning out. Then he caught himself and basically said, "Look, maybe I'm just talking." But that radio moment fits perfectly with what he later explained publicly. The frustration was not random, it matched the same theme. The 8 car is not giving him the confidence or balance he needs. And that leads us straight to the second part, the piece that made this feel like the real secret exposed story. Busch did not just criticize the car, he also opened up about a philosophical gap inside Richard Childress Racing. That's the kind of thing drivers usually dance around. Busch did not. He said Richard still thinks it's basically one thing, one missing piece, one big fix. Busch said he sees it differently. In his words, they are missing about 10 little things. That's not a tiny comment. That's Busch telling you the problem is systemic, detailed, and much harder to solve than just finding one magic setup knob. And honestly, that makes perfect sense in the modern Cup garage. NASCAR is tighter than ever. Margins are microscopic. Races are now decided by a pile of tiny gains instead of one obvious breakthrough. Busch said it himself, you're playing with thousandths of an inch here and there. and it takes a bunch of those tiny improvements stacked together to get the full result you want. If Childress is still wired to believe the answer is one major correction, while Busch is telling you the team needs 10 smaller corrections working together, then the real challenge is not just speed, it's alignment. And if a driver and owner are not looking at the same map, it takes even longer to find the destination. Then came the Mark Martin angle, and this part ties the whole story together better than anything else. Martin's point was that Busch needs to get back in a car where he does not have to overextend himself, because there is magic in that. That is such a simple sentence, but if you have watched NASCAR long enough, you know exactly what he means. Great drivers look even greater when the car underneath them is good enough that they do not have to force every corner, every restart, every pass. What stood out is that Busch did not reject that idea. He basically agreed with it and then added something important. He said the team needs to get back to a level where they are running 15th every week, then 10th every week, then 5th every week, and only then do you put yourself in position to win races. That is a brutally honest way of saying they are not even consistently starting from the right foundation right now. And Busch did not hide from his own role either. He brought up Kansas from last year and flat out said, "I made a mistake." He recalled having a real shot to win, putting himself in a bad aero spot, hitting the wall, and spinning out. That matters because it tells you this is not Busch blaming the car for every bad day. He's acknowledging both sides of it. The equipment has not been good enough, and when the opportunities have come, he has not always maximized them either. To me, that is the most revealing part of the whole week. Not just that Busch criticized the car, not just that he exposed a difference with Childress, but that he also looked inward. That changes the story from Kyle Busch is frustrated to Kyle Busch thinks the whole equation is off, including parts of himself. And that is usually when a veteran is being the most real. Now we get to Darlington, and this is where the timing becomes even more fascinating. Because if there is any racetrack that will punish a driver who does not fully trust the rear of the car, it is this place. Busch called Darlington one of the hardest tracks on the schedule. He talked about the worn-out asphalt, the need to run right up against the wall, and how one lap you feel great and the next lap you can be completely sideways and almost gone. That sounds a lot like the exact instability he has been describing with a next-gen car all season long. He also said Darlington is the kind of track where the balance keeps moving all day. It starts loose, gets tight in the middle, then frees back up late, and you are always chasing it. That is the key phrase, always chasing it. Because that has been the entire Kyle Busch season in one sentence. Chase the field, chase the grip, chase the little fixes, chase the consistency, chase the version of the number 8 team that actually belongs near the front. And Darlington is not some hopeless place for him either. Busch has one Cup win there, 17 top 10s, and nearly 900 laps led in Cup competition at that track. So this is not a situation where he's heading somewhere that has always chewed him up. There is real history here. There is muscle memory here. There is proof that when the balance is right, Kyle Busch knows exactly how to get around that place. That is why this weekend feels like a genuine checkpoint. Not because one race is going to solve everything, it will not. But if Busch has truly exposed the root of the problem, the missing rear grip, the pile of tiny details, the need for better communication and a cleaner baseline, then Darlington is the kind of track that will either confirm that diagnosis or expose even more pain. There really is nowhere to hide at a place this technical and this unforgiving. And I think that's the bigger takeaway from this whole story. The secret was not some off-track bombshell. The secret was Busch finally saying the quiet part out loud. This is not just bad luck, and it is not just one broken part. The car does not give him the feel he needs. The team is not missing one thing. It's missing a stack of small things. And even he knows some of the near misses were made worse by mistakes behind the wheel. That kind of honesty can go two ways. It can be the moment a team finally resets and starts solving the right problems, or it can be the moment you realize just how deep the hole actually is. And with Busch winless since June 2023, coming off a rough early stretch and entering a track that punishes every single weakness, Darlington suddenly feels less like just race 6 and more like a pressure test for the whole direction of the season. So yes, Kyle Busch shocked everyone after the secret was finally exposed, but the real shock was not that he was angry, it was how clear he was. He told you what the car lacks, he told you where the team is disconnected, he told you he made mistakes too. And when a driver of his caliber starts laying it out that directly, people in the garage pay attention, because they know that's usually not noise, that's a warning. So subscribe to NASCAR Hub for more breaking NASCAR news, driver reactions, controversy, and all the biggest stories from around the garage. Drop a like and let me know in the comments, did Kyle Busch finally expose the real reason RCR is struggling, or do you still think this team can turn it around? We'll see you in the next one.